What it do, what it do, what it do. Welcome to Old Boy's Corner with the old boy. Hope everybody had a good, happy, blessed 4th of July. Hope whatever you did it safely. Whatever you had going on, hopefully you did it safely. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. You're now rocking with your boy, Old Boy, and Old Boy's Corner. And happy post 4th of July. Hope everybody was well and recovering. So you see the title, Diddy won the battle, but did he win the war? I know it's different takes on what happened, how it happened, what's going to happen. A lot of people agree with the jurors. Some don't. Kind of can see it both ways. I actually thought that they did enough, but unfortunately, that the scale of justice of the jurors, didn't think so. And at the end of the day, that's kind of all that matters. That reasonable doubt is something serious. And regardless of who don't like it, you got to shout out to that man, legal team. He got a defense team, man. Which they did their job. Their job is to break down the facts and even make the truth seem like lies. So shout out to his defense team for that, man. You like it or love it. You can hate it. You can, we can go back and forth all day about that. However, he had a very, very, very strong defense team. And without further ado, we're going to go in and get into some content.
Victory. It's a great victory for Sean Combs. It's a great victory for the jury system. You saw that the Southern District of New York prosecutors came at him with all that they had. They're not stopping, but one thing stands between all of us and a prison, and that is a jury of 12 citizens.
Diddy may have been acquitted of some pretty big charges at his criminal trial, but he still was convicted of 2. So what's next for him?
Hey, Nisha, how you doing?
His finances, facing a wave of lawsuits, including a brand new one from a former exotic dancer who claims Diddy drugged and assaulted him, caused him to lose teeth and have to get gastric surgery. We're going to talk about it all right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey, everybody, this is another Law
and see, and this is also how it happens too. A lot of times, there's going to be more victims come out. Going to be more alleged victims come out. There's going to be more lawsuits. And either way, my take on it, I think that when they dropped them first, when they dropped them cases right at the end, I either feel like, because one thing about the feds, once you're a fed baby, you always a fed baby. That's in any situation, street wise, political wise, celebrity wise. It's a trap. Once a fed baby, always a fed baby. But my take on it is either allegedly he gave us some names. It's probably a profit agreement somewhere. Allegedly, and or they gonna come back with more charges later. That's my take on it. But let's go.
Crime legal alert. If you received Depo-Provera birth control shots and were later diagnosed with a brain or spinal tumor called meningioma, you may be eligible for a lawsuit.
I did.
They're investigating claims that patients weren't properly warned about this
Hopefully
risk.
you did as well.
It's free to check, just takes a few minutes, and you don't pay unless they win. So scan the QR code on screen, click the link below, or go to forthepeople.com/LC to see if you qualify. Well, after the monumental verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial, the question now is, what is next for him, right? You got sentencing, civil suits, a lot to get into. So while Combs...
And let me say this too as well, then I'm going to let it play for a minute. Hope everybody know that they even... R. Kelly actually beat his first case too. Let that sink in.
Was acquitted of racketeering conspiracy and the sex trafficking charges that he was facing. He was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution. Currently, sentencing is set for October 3rd. However, there is a hearing set for July 8th where the defense will be arguing for the sentencing date to be expedited, to happen sooner. Obviously, they want that, considering Combs was also denied bail yet again, despite arguments from his legal counsel after the verdict that he should be released on bond. It didn't happen. They want to make sure this happens as quickly as possible. But what will he be sentenced to, really? That's the question. And also, will the government seize his assets? What about all of those civil lawsuits that he faces? Again, a lot of questions, a lot to get into. So for all of this, let me bring on former sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, the great Matt Murphy is with us. Matt, good to see you.
Happy to be here, as always.
Got to ask you your reaction to the verdict. Is it what you expected?
Well, hearkening back to, I don't know, we were talking about this, you and I, a couple of months ago, and I got to say, whether it's fun to be right or not in a case like this, we were both right. This was never a good fit for RICO for a lot of different reasons. And the consent element regarding the sex trafficking was always problematic. And I thought the prosecution here did a good job presenting their case. They did a good job presenting their theory. But when you match in a trial context, when you match like professorial and kind of plotting, which is the way a lot of government lawyers are, versus dynamic and engaging and that personality of the defense, it's always a mismatch. You're always up against it. And the Mann Act, like we talked about, I thought he was going down on that after like the second day of testimony. The problem is for the prosecution, the Mann Act is a very old law, and it was essentially legislative morality from about 100 years ago, where it was transporting prostitutes across state lines. The intent may have been good. It was essentially a very early version of sex trafficking, but it was really more an attempt to stop prostitution, which is, as we know, never going to happen. So almost every lonely guy in New York City who's going through a divorce, who is having a problem in the dating pool, who has some sex worker drive over from New Jersey, if he buys her Uber or his Uber, theoretically, that's a violation of the Mann Act. So that is it's not the same type of crime. There's no mandatory minimum under federal law. The judge does not have to. That. Right. They don't have to. Now, it carries up to 10 years per event. So he faces up to 20 years. The prosecution, I think, is asking for 46 months or something like that. They're asking for far less than that.
If the case was, if they had called, let's say, Christina Coram, okay, this chief of staff who had been mentioned, I think, by almost every witness, and she said, hey, listen, there was a criminal enterprise, okay? We were all a part of it. Everybody knew what the job description was.
I think he get about, a good 5 to 10 is my, or maybe 3 to 7, something like that. That's my take on it. And as you see, they're pressuring it. One thing about the defense team you got, they're fast and hard, and that would actually change the trajectory of this trial as well, because they exercised their right for Diddy to do a speedy trial, which allowed them not to be able to get a hold on some of the witnesses, some of the evidence that they were still looking to get. I'm pretty sure they had a lot of open-ended things because they didn't see them asking for a speedy trial. I know they did. They didn't anticipate that. And then really from the beginning, Really, like now they're trying to get their time. You know, they hard and fast. They hard and fast, and that changes the trajectory of things.
Job was to do this. His job was to do this. You think they would have gotten racketeering if they didn't include Jane, who was arguably the more problematic testimony? I mean, Sean Combs still paying her rent, messages that she was setting up a lot of these sexual encounters. You know, Cassie had messages too that were problematic that showed if we're talking about whether she was a willing participant or not. But if you focus just on Cassie and you didn't call in Jane, or you didn't call in Amia, or you didn't call in a Brianna Bengolan, if you limited the case, and now it's so easy to play, you know, Monday morning quarterback or armchair lawyer here, but do you feel that the prosecution could have won this case if they structured it differently, if they called different witnesses?
That's a great question, and that's something that these prosecutors will literally be wondering for the rest of their lives, for the rest of their careers. They're going to be wondering if they'd done it differently, would the impact upon the jury and would the result have been different. The fundamental problem, I think, is that this was kind of always a round peg in a square hole. The arson, that domestic violence video that we all watched, that's horrific. All of that should have been prosecuted as state crimes in Los Angeles. That as a fundamental, starting point.
Well, they couldn't do it now. It was time barred.
No, of course, the statute is run on everything.
Yep.
But that would have been, he would have been prosecuted for exactly what he did instead of predicate acts into a RICO theory. Now, RICO, as we know, was designed for essentially mafia organization, for organized crime. And the idea is simply because there's a legitimate business, like in The Godfather, they had a legitimate olive oil importing business. And that was but it was still a criminal enterprise. The real thing was the mafia. The real thing was the organized crime surrounding the Corleone family, to use an example that everybody can probably relate to. So simply because their olive oil importing business was legitimate, that's not a defense to a RICO thing. That's the current state of the law. What they did here is they took a business that was always legitimate, Bad Boy Records, that was always and the purpose is to make music and make money. Everything surrounded that. And the defense argument, which they obviously argued very effectively, was that is not a criminal enterprise. So the very first element of RICO.
Now that, excuse me, and I'm gonna say allegedly, Bad Boy most definitely, allegedly was funded off street money, allegedly. And I don't know if you want to say that is not a criminal enterprise, but whatever.
Has always been problematic from the very beginning. You and I talked about that 2 months ago when this whole thing started, and and the jury. This was a sober jury that the questions were serious and direct, and they sent that note out regarding juror 25 right at the very beginning, saying, "Hey, this guy's not deliberating," and. So this was a serious group, and the Mann Act, they did convict on that. So they were, by the fact that that it was unanimous, meant that they were getting along. Federal juries tend to be, in California anyway, we have, they draw our state juries off the DMV database. That's how you get jury duty, is from the DMV. Federally, it's based on voter rules. So it's people who are conscientious enough to actually vote, and you tend to get a more serious class of juror in federal court, which I think is interesting. So to answer your question, it's something that we could kick around for years.
Sure.
But I think the fundamental problem here is that it was always kind of a misfit for a RICO theory. Just like the sex trafficking, sex trafficking requires fraud, force, or coercion. Right. So that essentially is the same elements of rape. So you essentially, it's transporting somebody under circumstances that equate to rape. Is something forceful, something fearful. That it just doesn't fit very well here, especially when you're talking about all these people who they're orbiting him. They're all trying to advance their own career. And when when the defense attorney got up and said, Cassie got $30 million. as a result of her settlement, right? And that was a big move.
Yeah, I wasn't sold for that personally, because I was like, the prosecution came back and be like, she already settled. What's her incentive to come here and lie? You know, what's her incentive to be a part of this? And that for me, but I think the messages, the conduct that arguably contradicts someone being a victim, and I know there's complicated factors between an abuser and a victim, the trauma. I get it. I totally understand it, but I wonder if that's what settled the jury. Okay, I want to move past the verdict because now we have to talk about what's happening next. First thing, when the sentencing hearing is going to happen. So they have this hearing next week about whether to expedite the sentencing, happening before October 3rd. If both sides agree, great. If they don't, what is a compelling legal argument for the defense to say, we want this sentencing to happen much sooner?
Well, I mean, we know that behind the scenes, what they want, of course, is they expect a chance that he's going to be released. So that's their big motivating factor, of course. Whether the court abides by that, I mean, it is a substantial change in circumstance. He was acquitted of all of these serious charges, right?
But he was just denied bail. He was denied bail again.
He was denied bail again, and I actually learned that on your segment yesterday afternoon as I was sort of doing my preparation for this. But we have to remember that one of the things that he got in trouble for, that Diddy got in trouble for in jail, was using other inmates' calling number. Remember that? So he was calling witnesses in the case from jail using other inmates. That was a direct affront to that judge. That was remember, we had all those attempts at bail that were denied at the very beginning of the case, one after another after another. This judge, and it's the same judge who's going to sentence him, denied that over and over again. And you and I, again, in another conversation we had on your show, we both said he is screwed now.
What up, bro? How you doing, man? What
because
up?
He's violating the rules of the court while in jail. So if he's disobeying the rules of the jail and the directive of the court while he's in custody, how can he be expected to actually follow the terms of his
doing, man?
When he's out of custody?
Right.
And I think that chicken is coming home to roost again. I mean, I think that's what happened yesterday afternoon. That any judge who has a criminal defendant who behaves like that is an affront to the court itself. It's disrespectful to the court. Sure. And it's almost like he couldn't get out of his own way there at the beginning. But he had an excellent defense team.
He does. So assuming for a moment, whenever the sentencing hearing happens, right, let's say it happens in a month from now, let's say it has October 3rd. The question is, what's his sentence?
And see, I said that earlier, man. He had an excellent defense team, man. Like, they was on it. I mean, they cost enough. So I already knew there was going to be a hard fight for the prosecution, man. Defense lawyers itself are treacherous. But you get them caliber of defense lawyers on a federal level, I mean, they'll break the truth. And I know you ask yourself, how can you break the truth? A good defense lawyer. So most definitely said that.
As we mentioned, the prosecution in a filing from yesterday talked about the guidelines range being 51 to 63 months. Now, this is before a pre-sentencing investigation and report. Now, the defense, right, they want 21 months. He's already served almost 10. Talk to us about what you're thinking here, because there is no minimum. The maximum's 10. If the judge were to combine it together, like you said, 20 years, feels highly unlikely that would happen. As we're talking, what is a pre-sentencing report investigation? How would it affect this? What do you think the judge is going to do? There's so many different factors to consider here. And it's not like a murder case when it's like, okay, we know what's going to happen. It's like life in prison.
What's up, brother?
What's up?
Man, going through this little Diddy stuff, man. What you think about it? Did you I mean, I know you can't help but follow. It's every damn well. So
I mean, I haven't really been following it. I don't really know too much about it, other than what people been saying. I don't know too much. I don't really follow Diddy that much.
Yeah.
Well, I don't follow him at all. I can't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I was listening to what the lawyer was saying just now. I mean, and what you just said, he had the best attorneys on his case. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you got to think he had the same attorneys that Young Thug had, they say. You know
that one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
most definitely. Yeah, he most definitely had a dream team, man. And actually, he wasn't even what one would say was the best lawyer on the team. That woman Westmoreland.
yeah,
And then it was another lady, but I mean he had lawyers on there that helped fight, death penalty cases.
yeah.
So he hit, man, and they did their job, bro. They did it. You can't be mad at them. I know a lot of time people like, man, how can somebody defend somebody that did, such and such, but that's your constitutional right. You know
And
what I'm
I
saying?
agree. And I agree. I
Yeah,
mean, it's like it's so crazy because it's like I mean, you can see everybody sees a lot of things, you know what I mean? Being with this case, I done talked about things that I done heard about, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah.
But it's people that's actually been there, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah. And I
I mean,
think, a lot of people, I mean, and it's kind of, man, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way when I see females defending it, as women themselves, and most of all as parents of, it's crazy, bro. Like I don't even know, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you into. I agree, what goes on in the person's bedroom, what a person's preference is theirs. But when no mean no, I don't care if you did it 99 times. If you say no that 100 times, it's no. You know what I'm saying? And I just don't get it, man. And that's why there's rules in place. You're working, man. That's why there's rules in place that you're not supposed to mess with your, what I'm saying, your employees,
your coworkers.
Yeah. It's fraternizing, because you can use your power, your influence, in a negative manner.
Yeah.
So, and once again, there's a lot of things that happen every day. Some things are not a problem until they become a problem. Just because it's always been done, that doesn't make it okay. Oh, everybody always fly women out. But I know a couple of homeboys personally that stopped being in the pimp game because they was hitting them with them trafficking charges.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth it. And these women were willing to do it. They wanted to do it. This wasn't even like no slave work or no, you know what I'm saying? They wanted it, but that man was there to help transport for what you say, protection, making sure things go good. You know what I'm saying? But they was getting hit with them trafficking charges, bro. And that's why a lot of them quit. You know what I'm saying? A lot of girls went independent and went online, whoop the whoop. But it's the same thing. And it pisses me off when people think that just because people with money, or they say they're trying to bring the black man down, as a black man, you have to give them something for them to do something to you to bring you down.
That's true.
So I kind of go ahead.
So it's like I be thinking of like I've been hearing like, so do everybody think this guy's gonna get off? I mean, he was found guilty on one of those, right? Out of or two of them out of 5 charges or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's still going to get time behind it. Nobody just how much time, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's still at what, 2.5 to maybe 5?
Well, they can the max on each charge is actually 10 years, which we know they're not gonna get no 20 years, right?
Right.
So I think they're gonna give him like a 3 to 7.
That's what I was thinking, like something like a 5 year, maybe I say 2 to 5, 2.5 to 5 years.
Yeah. I can even go with that. Yep. I can even go with that. Yeah, about 2 to 5.
But in all reality, if you really want to break it down, that man ain't never did no time a day in his life. So,
nah.
I mean, all this time
that seems like a long time for him, right?
Yeah, all this time that he's been locked up, and then especially going in there and do the rest of that time. Yeah, shit about to get real.
It's interesting, man. I know a lot of people thought that he was gonna that they was gonna let him out on bond, but you see, that judge showed no favoritism. That judge followed the law, because under the Mann Act is not a bondable charge. And so, but then a lot of people thought, since the jury favored him, you know, at the end of the day, people have to realize, like, I was on in somebody chat, and they was talking about the jurors or whatever, and saying that, you know, us as people can't talk about it because we're not lawyers. Guess who else not lawyers? Them jurors not lawyers.
Yeah.
They only hear the information, and honestly, we supposed to know more information they do, because they can't watch what we watch on TV. Supposedly, they're not supposed to be watching it. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day,
go ahead.
They're regular people, right?
Yeah.
They're regular people trying to understand the law and trying to understand what the judge's instructions are to the charge.
Yeah.
So we all in the same boat, and everybody allowed to have their own opinion. You know what I'm saying? So, and like I said, he got some people that's for him, and he got some people that's against him.
Yeah.
Me, I'm either or. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, you know, because that's what justice is. That's why that lady on that scale, that's why she got a blindfold over her eyes.
Yeah.
And once again, you know, like I said, I know a lot of innocent people locked up, and I know a lot of guilty people free, bro.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it is what it is, man. It's crazy though, man. It's crazy, but
I mean, you just killed my whole. I was about to say something else, but I don't even know what to say. You just go ahead and shit. Bro, you just did everything I was just about to say, and
my bad, bro. You know,
but I mean, it's true though. It's true though.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, and what I tell people too, man, in that federal game too, once you were fed, baby, you always a fed, baby.
Right.
The feds,
just like you just said, jury, they're not nobody other than a person to point out if you're guilty or not. They're just like basically they just listening to the case and trying to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
just like we doing.
Yeah, it's already up to the judge on what she wants to do. You know what I'm saying? So, or he wants to do. You know what I'm saying? And that's the defense. If your defense ain't speaking up for you, and you just in court, and your defense is just saying, yeah, well, shit, he gonna take the time, then that's what he gonna do.
You know exactly. Well, I don't know if you was in here yet, but this is my take on it too, because you know they had dropped 2 charges, you know, right before, you know what I'm saying, the closing arguments. Now, my belief, allegedly, this is my belief now. I have 2 different beliefs. I believe that either he talked, he gave somebody else up, you know what I'm saying, or they gonna come back with something else later on. Because you also got to remember, R. Kelly got off the first time too now.
Correct.
And there was a video of him doing what he did. He was able to convince them jurors that that was his brother and not him. His lawyers was.
I remember that.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they got him the second time though. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think when people say how strong this defense team was and how defense, you know, that's in sports. Defense win games. Yeah, you got to score now. But defense win games, man. Yeah. But that defense got him out of all them 3 of them charges, the 3 big ones, and did not call one witness, not even a character witness. You know how powerful that is, bro? He didn't even speak for himself.
He knew he didn't have to, because he knew he had a team.
Boy,
I got a strong team. I ain't got to speak.
But he was speaking. He was speaking through them. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah. That shit. Like I said, I don't think people understand that, man. With no witnesses, bro. Not one. Not a character witness. Not his mama talking about how good of a child he was. Not a child saying how good of a daddy he was. Not a business association saying what good of a businessman he was. Nothing, bro. Shit. Man, like, well, I'm gonna get through the content though. All right?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna play a little bit. See what they got to say.
Without the possibility of parole, it's a given. There's room here. What do you think the judge is going to do?
So in federal court, this is actually very interesting. They rely very heavily on those pre-sentencing investigations. So essentially what will happen is there'll be a federal probation officer, and they do these for almost every case, where they will do their own investigation, where they'll talk to family members, they'll talk to employers, they'll talk to neighbors, and they will make a recommendation to the court as to suitability for release, suitability for time. And that's something that federal judges traditionally really adhere to. They tend to put a lot of weight on those, far more than they do in state court. The probation department can make a recommendation, but the DA will certainly have more ability most of the time to talk a judge in or out of a sentencing recommendation from the probation department. Federal court is different. They really put a lot of weight on those. So that's something that I think is going to be very interesting. And a lot of that will come down to what the individuals involved in that investigation, even though it shouldn't impact their professional recommendation. It's really, I think we're going to see what they thought of the case. Did they think he got away with something horrific here? Did they think that he was getting railroaded from the beginning? I think that may reflect in the recommendation to the court, but of course we don't know what that is yet. I don't know. If I'm his defense lawyer, I don't know if I am pressing the gas on that, trying to make this thing go faster. I mean, it's coming up soon enough anyway.
I said that too.
I would want to give them the time and not press them, because you don't want a probation officer or anybody in the federal system to feel like they're being rushed.
Right.
Because I think it's very easy to just go, okay, screw it, the guy should stay in.
The prosecution made the point yesterday. They said the point, like, we're not ready to give a really sentencing recommendation. We haven't gotten the report. There's people say, well, maybe he'll get time served, right? He's been locked up. There's other people say, no, the judge is going to throw the book at him, even though the judge said yesterday, even though I'm denying him bail and I'm looking at certain conditions, this is not reflective or a preview of what my sentencing recommendation or what my sentence will be. But, are we looking at double digits? Are we looking, you think, at 1 to 5 years, time served? I know it's so impossible to ask, but it is a very specific charges he was convicted of.
Yeah, we're not looking at double digits. Okay. I cannot imagine the court imposing that. And remember, because this law is so old, and we're in an age of Uber. So literally, somebody in New York City, a man or a woman who engages the services of a sex worker who lives in New Jersey, and if they pay for their Uber, that technically is a Mann Act violation. Okay, so it's a morality crime, and that it just does not carry the same weight.
Will the judge say, hey, listen, multiple instances he was doing it, not on Uber, he was doing it multiple times. You have 2 alleged victims here, Cassie, Jane, and violence, right? He used violence as one of the reasons to deny him bail. I wonder if he's going to look at, even though he was acquitted of racketeering and sex trafficking, different characteristics and components of his relationships with Jane and Cassie, and say, this is aggravated.
It's a very interesting question. Can the court aggravate nonviolent offenses that he was convicted of, which are the Mann Act violations? Can he aggravate those when he was acquitted of the more serious charges, essentially acquitted of everything that involved violence, threats, all of that sort of thing? So It's a very, very interesting legal question.
Real quick, asset forfeiture. What is that exactly? How would it work with Mann Act convictions?
I just don't see the feds being on very strong ground to seize a bunch of assets. And here's why, Jesse. Most of the federal cases where you have, especially RICO cases, an actual RICO case is an actual corrupt organization that the purpose is, like, I had one in Salt Lake City last year. It was a fraud case where it was one of these calling room scam operations. Every dollar that they made in that, they made out of the bank account of some poor innocent victim who got scooped up in their scheme. So every dollar, everything they bought, every car, every house, everything that they owned was a direct result of money that they gleaned from innocent people. Those are the cases, or narcotics. We see this all the time in narcotics cases where but it's the same principle. All the things that they have are a result of narcotics profits, right? So when you look at one of those cases, you're seizing assets. Here, we've got mansions all over the place. We've got planes. This is a very, very wealthy man who made that money legitimately in Bad Boy Records, in the music industry and in the film industry. That's how he made his money, and that is not a product.
Was his money really made legitimately all the time? All the artists that allegedly who he robbed or their royalties, all the artists that he didn't pay, which alone is a crime. So I don't know about that one, buddy.
And that's where we come full circle to this square peg and round hole regarding a RICO theory on this. The money, he didn't make any money from the freak offs. He didn't make any money from all of the alleged things he did. He didn't make any money from that horrible video that we saw where he's beating Cassie in that hotel. That's not the source of his income. So I think, again, I don't think that the feds or even the court, I don't think the court would look kindly on that. And there's an old adage in the law that you and I've talked about before. Bad facts make bad law, right? And if they run around and try to seize a bunch of stuff based on this, they're literally taking assets from a citizen that earned them legally. He may be a villain, he may be a bully, he may be a horrible person, but he made that money legally. He was not charged here with tax fraud, which means he paid taxes on it. He had accountants, he put it all together. So I don't see this judge. I think it'd be a very poor move if they try to take a bunch of his stuff. I think that they still have to create a nexus between the Mann Act violations and his property, and I just don't see it.
I don't see it. Okay, well, he might need the money. Why? Because he's got a plethora of civil lawsuits that he's facing now. And by the way, in fact, Tenny Garagos had something to say about that yesterday.
Sean Combs has not sexually assaulted anybody. I've been saying this for months. We've said it with each lawsuit that came out, and today that was proven true. The media got it wrong about Sean Combs every single day for nearly 2 years. I ask that for every time you guys see a civil lawsuit, criminal complaints or criminal indictments, you actually take a look and analyze these and see whether or not these are actually going to stand up in a court of law, because today they did not.
So Sean Combs, he is facing dozens of sexual assault lawsuits. In fact, Vulture recently clocked it at 66 women, men, minors, drugging, sexual assault, violence. Matt, first of all, does the criminal case have any effect on the civil suits? And let me just ask you about this. You have at least one of the people who testified in this case who's a plaintiff, right? Dawn Richard, former Danny Kane band member, claims she saw Combs assault Cassie. Combs threatened her allegedly when she tried to intervene. She claims she was sexually harassed. So the idea of the criminal case.
Speaking of Dawn, I saw an interview on one of the alternate jurors, and they were saying they absolutely did not. Well, he can only speak for himself. In so many words, he absolutely didn't believe her. I heard the transcripts from it. Once again, a great defense team. They broke her down. Once again, defense lawyer's job is to break down even the truth, to make it sound like lies. And also, when people go through traumatic things, there's some things that you forget. There's some things you don't remember. Some things, times and dates and stuff get mixed up, when you're dealing with something traumatic, something that then created PTSD from within. So shout out to Dawn for actually being brave enough to come and speak.
Affecting any of the civil cases? Let's start there real quick.
Well, what's very interesting about civil versus criminal cases is when somebody's convicted, of course, in a criminal case, because the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, it's called collateral estoppel.
Hello, Ms. Rich.
For a civil case based on the same event or the same actions, you automatically win the civil case. Okay, so in other words, we saw this with Mike Tyson and his rape conviction, right? When he was convicted of rape, because it was beyond a reasonable doubt, and because the civil aspect only requires proof to a preponderance, that woman a million years ago when that case happened, all she had to do is prove damages. So it's already been proven, all right? What happened here, because he was acquitted of all these allegations, now each one of these plaintiffs bears the burden of proof. So this was not only a huge win for him criminally, this was a big win for Sean Combs when it comes to all those pending civil suits, because now those same people, in theory, would have to come in and testify. And remember, Don Richard is a good example. The cross-examination of Don Richard was excellent in my assessment. And I've trained young prosecutors for years on how to do cross-examinations. I've taught it in law schools. That cross-examination was biting and it was really good. So now Don Richard, in her case, she's been really, ripped apart, I thought, on cross-examination in this case. So now she's kind of wounded. Her civil suit is, her statements were all admissible in that. She really, there are some things she said on the stand that I think were very harmful to her case. She can still proceed with that. But if I'm her plaintiff's lawyer, I would be trying to find some sort of settlement and number. Who knows? These people.
And another thing, they was victimizing. I don't like when people victimize people or victim shame. I'm not an advocate for that. Like I said, a traumatic situation, you forget things. Some things you try to forget on purpose, to try to get through the next day, to get through the next minute, to try to get through the next hour. Just trying to get through life. So you suppress a lot of them things. And there was a lot of people saying, well, if this happened to them, why did they have to have immunity? So this is how the federal government works. They know that you've been involved in this, and it's the same all the way across the board, whether it's political, whether it's streetwise. So they're going to come to you and say, hey, we got these charges on you because we know you was involved in this as well. Now, what we can do is that we want Diddy. So if you can tell us what your involvement was, we won't prosecute you because we want the big fish. People acting like this something is outlandish or something that you don't know they go on. So that's why they got the immunity, because they couldn't get up there, weren't willing to get up there and say what they had going on as well, because a lot of them witnesses was also complicit to the crimes. They helped, his assistant, they helped, they knew what was going on. So, that's what it was. So they will go to you as being the smaller fish and say, we'll give you immunity. So that's what's going on. And once again, that's just how the law works. Or they're going to tell you, but if you don't testify, we're going to bring forward these charges.
There's a lot to be said for this idea that they were all jumping on the bandwagon trying to get money. I think that argument,
thank you, Ms.
most judges are going to allow the defense to make that argument. I think that some of them will settle. Some of them may still go to trial.
Well, let me ask you this real quick. If they don't settle, real quick, would he just try to get rid of them as quickly as possible? Does he say, first argument is I'm going to try to, anybody who's suing me under a pseudonym, I'm going to try to convince the court that they can't proceed under a pseudonym, because if they now have to reveal their names, maybe they'll be like, okay, I don't want to move forward. Or does he just move for a motion to dismiss on all of them? Can he try to group them together? I know I'm asking like complicated, like how to deal with 66 lawsuits at once, aside from the money that's going to go into it. Yeah.
Each one of those cases will have its own individual merits, and each one will have to be addressed separately. So he's going to have to pour a lot of money into his legal fund, but he was looking at life in prison. So how much of his fortune will go into defending all those lawsuits? Probably a substantial amount, but as we know, he's the guy has been able to pick out good musical talent and also good legal talent.
Yeah, and it does become a question what his career would be like after. Okay, before I let you go, I have to ask you about this new lawsuit that just came out. We're talking lawsuits. So there was a lawsuit that was filed just 2 days ago. This is a lawsuit filed out in California State Court. Edmund Laurent, former exotic dancer. He's filed a suit against Combs and a Jane Doe and other unnamed people, listing causes of action of assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, sexual battery, civil conspiracy, aiding and abetting, violation of the California Civil Code. Laurent alleges that he was this star model, this actor, this bodybuilder who was highly sought after for music videos in the 1990s and 2000s, like with Tupac, Dr. Dre, Britney Spears. Actually, embedded in his complaint are pictures of him with various celebrities. And then he mentions he rarely consumed alcohol. He didn't do drugs. He claims he was friendly with Sean Combs, having seen him on music video shoots. But then he alleges this. He alleges how he did some work as this male entertainer for bachelorette parties. And on one occasion, he arrives at an LA hotel where Combs and Jane Doe are wearing masks. He performed a private dance. A few days later, he claims he gets another call for Combs and Jane Doe. He alleges that Jane Doe propositioned him for sex. Combs purportedly said he wanted this and how much it turns him on to see a man having sex with his girl. So he agrees. Loren alleges that he kept on contacting him. And on another visit, Combs and Jane Doe unmasked themselves, asked him to apply excessive amounts of baby oil. They allegedly spiked his drink. He claimed on another occasion he applied baby oil that was tainted with GHB. And during sexual intercourse, Jane Doe broke the condom that he was wearing on purpose with her fingernails, despite him previously saying he didn't want to have unprotected sex. He alleges at that point, Combs kind of went behind him, whispered into his ear sexual commands. He claims he felt trapped, uncomfortable. He recounted a really graphic alleged scene where Combs physically grabbed him. And he documents another incident where he claims he was drugged, woke up naked, slathered in baby oil, felt pain in a certain region of his body. He claims he developed warts. He would vomit, gastric issues, had to even undergo surgery. He embedded photos of the surgery scars in his lawsuit. He says he was once this muscular physique, now no longer. He had stomach issues, gum issues, enamel erosion, bad breath. He says he suffered immediate long-term physical and psychological harm. A lot of information there. But here's an example of a new lawsuit. How does he respond? How does Diddy respond to that?
Well, there are so many problems with that lawsuit, especially now. He hasn't been convicted, and they filed that, I believe, before the acquittal, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, right before the acquittal. So, look, there are so many problems with that. First of all, GHB has I've done a bunch of GHB cases as a prosecutor and also representing victims. GHB has a metabolic half-life of 40 minutes. So I guarantee he has no proof of the GHB allegation. So there's parts of that that don't make sense. That's a case that, Combs is going to have to be, he's going to have to be going through these lawsuits, figuring out which one of these he wants to try to settle monetarily and which ones are going to be worth actually going to trial on again. That's one, who knows, and there's also some statute problems here, Jesse, that I know you probably also recognize immediately. This is depending on the year that this allegedly happened. Some of these may be time barred. So there's going to be certainly some legal action trying to get them dismissed for statute of limitations violations. And it'll be interesting. But again, he's got dozens and dozens of these things. But he also he will have freedom at some point. He will, which is something that a week ago, a lot of people were predicting he was never going to see freedom ever again. So
100%.
At the end of the day, these lawsuits will work their way through the system. I'm sure some of them will be dismissed on their merits. Some of them will be, I wouldn't be surprised if some of them proceeded to trial, but I bet we're going to see his legal team trying to settle and get rid of as many of these as possible.
And I think for the lawsuits that were filed during the criminal trial or after, it becomes an argument. Okay, is all this true? I mean, it's Diddy's alleged MO. It's matching a lot of what was said, in the criminal case. Or do you have a plaintiff who's taking parts of the trial, putting them in a lawsuit, fabricating it? It'll be a question that maybe a jury or a judge will ultimately decide. Matt Murphy.
That's right.
Thank you. Yep, Matt Murphy. Thank you so much. I know you're a busy man. I'm going to let you go, but thank you so much. It was great seeing you.
Happy to be here always. Look forward to the next one.
And that is all we have for you right now here on Sidebar, everybody.
So yeah, I mean, that's that. I don't know. I don't know how much time he actually gets on each of the two charges. There's a max of 10 years on each charge, so he could get up to 20 years. Will they go that far? I don't think so. Once again, it's up to the judge. So who knows what will happen? I just say this, that once again, we make many decisions, and some of us even do things that is not a problem until it becomes a problem. And we could use speeding for example. And we probably all do it. We don't get a slap on the wrist until we actually do it, actually get caught for it. I agree. Most definitely. And I mean sick in the sickest way. Sick in the sickest way. Them are facts. I mean, like I was saying earlier, like you can be into something, but when you don't want to do it anymore, and a person tries to influence you to do it, it's wrong and it's against the law. It doesn't matter that you did it 99 times, that 100 times you didn't want to do it. It doesn't make these young women liars. It doesn't mean that they're not actual victims. Maybe some bad choices, but I'm pretty sure they didn't heard all the stories about Diddy and probably seen some of the stuff that he was doing to other people around him, which probably naturally scared a few of them, understandably. People say, well, why they didn't leave? And we all know somebody that been in a bad, abusive relationship, and he was broke, and they didn't leave. Oh wow, that's a good one right there. I ain't thinking about that, Miss Wish. I'm surprised they didn't clinically diagnose him as a actual sadist. Wow, that's a good one. I didn't even think about that. Maybe because they wanted to keep him off their registry. Because I think if they would have done that, he would have had to go on their registry. So maybe that's why. I'm just thinking. I never even thought about that, but that's critical thinking right there. So yeah, that's some critical thinking, and and maybe they didn't think about that, or maybe they did, but then, like I said, the backlash of that would be him having the register under that the XO. Yeah, I hadn't even heard nobody even mention that. That's pretty good right there. And once again, man, defense win games, man. Like I was just saying earlier, he beat all them charges, man, and didn't even have a witness for himself. Not even a character witness. It's a strong defense team. My thought pattern still kind of the same, though. I think that either allegedly, he gave someone up, and or they're gonna come in and again. Once again, keep in mind. Hey, Alicia, how you doing? Just keep in mind, R. Kelly got off the first time too. And under popular belief, a lot of people also think that OJ got off and he was actually guilty. A lot of people feel that way. So, and once again, once you're in the hands of them feds, man, once you're in bed with the feds, you're always in the bed with the feds. And them are facts. Once a fed, baby, you always a fed, baby. And if you don't believe it, ask the closest person that you ever dealt with a fed case, and they'll tell you. Ms. Witt said the stories that were told on inflicted pain and horror shows sadistic behavior. Oh, I'm totally in agreement with you. Lisa said free the Pied Piper. I'm just saying, right? I mean, and you know, and about the Pied Piper, you know, I have nothing bad to say about the justice system on that part. But when you look at stuff like this right here, I get why people would say that. And also, why weren't them parents locked up? Because the parents took them to Kells. Where they charges at? Where they charges at? For real, for real. I believe that Ms. Witt said, I believe they're probably going to ask. I do too. I really think that. I really, really, really think that in my gut. And or when they dropped them charges that he gave something or someone else up or someone's up. I really do. The minute I heard about it, being so close, it's like something going on here. It's gonna come out, and I guarantee you his paperwork is gonna be sealed. I almost guarantee you that. He gonna have that proffer agreement in there. Ms. Witt said, I remember when I was in the 8th grade when they made that verdict with OJ, and my teacher was mad. There was a lot of teachers mad. Damn near the whole world was mad. Damn near. And I don't know, man. Innocent or guilty. I can say it's suspect, but I don't know. I don't know that one where. And let me say this: that I think that if he did, he won by himself. If that makes sense, I don't think he was by himself. Like, and if he did that, man, something wrong with him. So, oh yeah, Alicia, most definitely. Though Alicia said them parents knew exactly what they were doing, securing the bag. Yes, and it didn't become a problem until the money ran out. And that's another thing that the feds do. That's how they end up getting chaos. You know what I'm saying? They ran that bag dry. And also the difference between him too is on the fact that, you know, he depended on a lot of people to keep up and take count of his money because he wasn't that literate. So, and a lot of people were stealing from him. So, and then of course when the feds got into him and they, you know, they seized his assets and the money that he did have, it was a wrap. You can't afford that type of defense team anymore. They got him off the first time. So yeah, man. So once again, it kind of irritate my soul, man, to hear grown men and women acting as they don't know what it's like to be or don't know a woman in a family or a friend that hadn't stayed into a bad relationship. Whether there was money involved, whether there wasn't money involved. There's somewhere right now that there's a woman dreading her head because she feels like she has no other choice but to go back to her abuser. right here, right now. Probably drove past 4 or 5 different police officers. It's called Stockholm Syndrome, my people. So be quick. So please, let's have some empathy for these young women that they went through. Because let's not act like nobody's saying the things he did ain't true. They're saying, well, they liked it. Well, at some point they didn't, obviously. Stockholm Syndrome. And I'm trying to find the right word to say. I pity if anybody in your family ever go through something like that and need people to believe them. Shell Quez in the building, the birthday girl. Happy post-birthday. Everybody tell Shell Quez happy birthday. But yeah, so and hopefully your daughters never go through anything like this. Meet a powerful man, a rich man that uses his power, his influence, his money. You know what I'm saying? Your daughter. And the first thing you're going to say is, why you going to leave it? She going to say, I can't. I love him. He won't let me. He just going to find me. Come on, man. Like, what are y'all men thinking? And then y'all wonder why women are so masculine now. You wonder why women won't let men take the lead. That's because it's too many weak males that don't want to stand up for what's right. But when your daughter, your niece, that's coming up, run into a rich and powerful man that happens to be abusing his power against her, love bombing, gift bombing. Let's see what you're going to have to say then. Don't come running to the internet. You're welcome, babe. Alicia says, I can believe that old boy, that old ass nigga took up those kids. I agree, most definitely. What's up, T-Bands? What's going on with you, brother? Good to see you. Hope you had a good, safe 4th of July, man. Yeah, so that's the thing, man. There's victim bashing. And once again, I don't care if you was with it 99 times. And that one time you wasn't with it, and someone tried to make you be with it. I mean, we heard the phone call. The voicemail. I'm out here working. I need you to work too. Now, mind you, she didn't work for him in his company. So what kind of work you thought he was talking about? He didn't say to her, let's go have some fun. I want to have fun. In his own words, y'all heard the voicemail. Y'all hear what y'all want to hear. I'm working. I need you working too. She's not an artist. She was not an employee of his. So what kind of work you think he was talking about? Man, shame on y'all, man. Shame on y'all. Shame on y'all. Y'all think that shit cool, man, and that shit ain't cool. It ain't cool at all. And I pray that your daughters and the young women in your life don't run across one. Because I bet your opinion will change then. And some of y'all really showing who y'all really are. Showing who you really are. And this case is a pure example of why victims don't speak out. This is a pure example of why. Because the person with the money defense is going to be, they only doing this because I got money. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Are we supposed to get it because you're a black, powerful man? Other black men supposed to, that want to be rich and powerful, supposed to give him a pass? Man, y'all tripping, man. You're trying to bring the black man down. No, the black man has more of responsibility to do what he need to do for himself to not be in that type of situation. We all got choices. Ms. Witt said it's like the females and their families, like their daughters or mothers and sisters are exempt from it, or it can happen. Yeah. Like for real. Alicia said that love bombing shit made my whole outlook on life change. Most definitely. It will. You know, and let's not forget this type of lifestyle. Like for real. Like this shit, man. Come on, man. Yeah, stop playing, man. Stop playing. Is we say happy that you're safe from all of that, Alicia. Most definitely. Most definitely. Shout out to her for that. Because a lot of people don't make it out. A lot of people don't make it out. And you're talking about, well, he just beat her. It's just criminal. It's just a CDV. Man, let somebody put hands and feet like that on a woman in your life and see if you just gonna be saying that. Oh, they only just want money. So you take y'all ass, y'all go slip and fall in Walmart or the grocery store or have a wreck and just don't say nothing. Don't take no money. When things go wrong, if the person got money, you sue. Come on, man. Y'all tripping. Really tripping. It doesn't make, I can't even believe some of the shit I be hearing and seeing. I ain't saying you gotta go up against him, but be careful what you say, man. That victim bashing ain't cool, man. It's not cool at all. Under no circumstances. Ms. Witt said the only man that is in agreement with it and won't have a problem with it is the one that participates and does the exact same thing. I totally agree with that. I said that as well earlier. That's one for the books right there. That's why I said some of these males are really showing how they would be if they had Diddy money. It doesn't exclude you. With great power comes great responsibility, my man. With great power comes great responsibility. And is that man in power, in position with money, is to do things to protect him and his assets. It's not the government job to do that. It's the government job to get you when you mess up. That's what they're there for. It's not a plot against the black man. Come on, man. Y'all kill me with that. Yeah, there is an unjust system out there. There is. Like I said before, I know a lot of innocent people locked up that didn't do it, didn't have a proper defense, got railroaded. And I know a lot of guilty people that's free that had money to pay for a defense. Ms. Wood said, and I'm pretty sure there are some powerful women that are like that, and we just don't know of them yet. Indeed. Total agreement. I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I've been just scrolling past it, man, because it's like this is what you're putting out. They money hungry. How could a man call a woman money hungry when he leads with money? When he oozes the woman with gifts, lavish lifestyle. Come on, man. Because half of them with the money wouldn't even be able to get the type of women they get if they didn't have the money. So the money is going to always be the objective because they lean with money. Like I said, let somebody do something wrong to you. You better not sue either. Let your job wrongfully terminate you. You better not sue either, because why? Oh, you just doing it because you want the money. Come on, man. Y'all got to be smarter than that. Got to be smarter than a fifth grader. These womanizing mentalities, man. And I don't care who you are. I don't stand behind victim bashing, man. Y'all heard the voicemail. And one thing about life, everybody ain't gonna tell the same lie on you. You better believe that. Some truth there somewhere. Some truth there somewhere. Everybody ain't telling the same lie. But once again, justice is supposed to be blind. And it just proves that if you got money, power, and influence, there's some things you can get away with. But I'm going to tell you what I do know. Two things I do know. One matters the most. But once you become a fed, baby, you're always a fed, baby, and they always watching you. You better not even step on a crack. And the next one. I know somebody that sit high and that looks low. So even when you've been found innocent in the people's eyes, you got somebody bigger to answer to. And I think they speak of this in the Bible, how evil will rule the earth. Makes you think. We're most definitely living in our biblical days. Most definitely at a spiritual warfare. And all I say, man, is like men need to do better of protecting women. Protecting women's rights, protecting women's feelings. Understanding that no means no. I don't care how many times she said yes. A freak is a freak. But it's against the law when you use money, power, and influence. Thank you, Miss Wish. It was that she just subscribed to everybody's channel. Like for real, man. We got to do better. We have to do better. And I'm going to come back. I want to do some more content on something else. I'm going to definitely being back. Alicia says, men are saying their own children. We are most definitely in the last days. Come on, man. The fact that you're doing it to any child is wrong, but to your own, my nigga. Come on, man. Come on, man. It's crazy. I'm gonna come back and talk about the Desire Harris case. I hadn't talked about it in over 6 months. Maybe about 3-4 months. I got some things I want to talk about that as well. I've been kind of quiet over here about it. I got some things I want to talk about that I think a lot of people have a different way of seeing a few things. And I actually got a few questions that haven't been asked. Or I see a few things that no one has spoke on. So Ms. Witt said, Ephesians 6:12. I ain't got my glasses on. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Woo-wee! Whew. That's deep. That's deep. Read that again. Let's go. Wow. Yeah, so I'll be back in about like 20 minutes, man. Hopefully y'all pull back up. I'm going ahead and check on my little pups. Check and see how they doing. And I'll be back in about 20 minutes. And I appreciate everybody. If you haven't hit that like button, please hit that like button on the way out. I really appreciate you coming over here rocking in the corner with old boy. And I'll be back. I'll be back in about 20 minutes. Thanks, everyone.